You're listening to the Daily Mishnah Podcast with Benedict.
We're in the second chapter of Bava Batra. We're talking essentially about mutual inconvenience or mutual disturbance. Can you do something on your property that disturbs something on someone else's property? So not, so to speak, the issue of damages, which really focused us in Bava Kama, and not so much criminality, but annoyance. And we close the third Mishnah with a question of putting a school on your property. Can your neighbors object if you have a school on your property? And we remember that the Bartanura said, look, the education makes Torah great and glorious. You can't object to education, even if it causes noise near your property. But there are areas where you could object. And the Mishnah continues. Someone's wall was adjacent to their friend's wall or their neighbor's wall. In other words, we've got two buildings which are right next. Essentially, people have built up to the property line, or they've got the wall next to the property line. We'll see. This is not quite building up to the property line, because the Mishnah continues. Lo yismoch lo kotel acher. He shouldn't build another wall next to it. Ela im ken hirchik mimenu arba amot, unless he distances it 4 cubits, unless he's 4 cubits away. And we've said, by the way, already 4 cubits is about 2 meters. So it's consistent with essentially a human's personal space. The personal space around you, around us, around a person is essentially 4 cubits square, so 2 meters square. And we're not going to build another structure next to our neighbor's boundary that's closer than 4 cubits and than 2 meters. In other words, we're not going to put additional building on unless it's 4 amot away. And similarly, uvechalonot, and the windows, milamalan milmatan, umiknegdan arba amot, and the windows which are facing onto the neighbor's property. Again, we've talked about the fact that seeing someone's property is considered an invasion of their space. So privacy is a right. It's a if you like, it's a financial right. It's a right that can be enforced in the same way as other financial rights can be enforced. So if you're going to build windows looking out onto another person's property, again, they need to be 2 meters away. Whether they're higher or whether they're lower or whether they're right opposite, they need to be 4 cubits away. And we're going to talk about more than privacy. So let's go on. Well, the Mishnah goes on to physical damage. Marchikinat sulam min hashovach arba amot kedei shelo tipotz numia. So that if we're going to put a ladder up against the wall of our property, we distance it away from a dovecote. If there's a dovecote in our neighbor's property and we put a ladder up, we distance it 4 amot. In other words, 2 meters. Kedei shelo tipotz numia, so that a weasel shouldn't jump in. A weasel is going to eat the doves. It's going to eat our neighbor's doves. We're not going to do something on our property which will destroy our neighbor's doves. Vet hakotel min hamazchela arba amot. If we're going to build a wall, we put it 4 cubits from any guttering, so that he can lean a ladder. In order to get a safe ladder, we need to lean it against the wall. So it needs to be sticking out from the wall. So we can't put up a structure which is going to stop our neighbor putting a ladder up against his own gutter so he can clear it out. And then going back to this theme of doves, the next part of the Mishnah just expands on what we're going to do with these doves. We're going to distance the dovecote 50 cubits from town. Because if it's closer than that, no one knows who the doves belong to. Lo yaseh adam shovach betoch shelo ela im ken yesh 50 ama lechol chai. No one is lechol ruach. No one can build a dovecote in their own domain unless it actually extends 50 cubits in every direction. So in other words, you have to have enough space in your own domain to build a dovecote. You have to have enough space in your domain, 50 amot in each direction, which will be about 25 yards, if you're going to build a dovecote. So we assume, by the way, that this situation where we're putting a ladder 4 cubits away from a dovecote is something that is already existing. It must be an existing dovecote on the edge of the property. How it ended up there, given the 50 cubit requirement, is not quite clear. And Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Beit Arba'a Korim, Rabbi Yehuda says the space of 4 cores, which is much longer than 50 amot, because Melo Sheger Hayona, because that's the length of a pigeon's flight. But if he bought it, he'd already bought this dovecote, and there was only the afilu beit rova. There was only the space of a quarter cup. He has a right to it. In other words, it's assumed that the dovecote has a right to be there, even if it isn't sufficiently far away. And the Mishnah then concludes its discussion on doves. If we've got a fallen dove that's found within 50 cubits of the dovecote, presumably the dovecote, harehu shall bite hashova, shall bal hashova. It actually belongs to the owner of the dovecote. Chutz michamisham amah harehu shall motzo. If it's beyond 50 cubits, it belongs to the person that found the fallen pigeon, the fallen dove. Nimtza ben shnei shovakot. If it's found between 2 dovecotes, karov lazeh shelo ve lazeh shelo. If it's closer to this one, it belongs to him, and if it's closer to the other one, it belongs to him. I.e., we find it between 2 dovecotes, even within 50 cubits, it belongs to the owner of the nearest dovecote. Machza lemachza shnehem yacholoku. If it's halfway, they divide it, just as we found in Bava Batra, any lost object, any found object that is exactly halfway between, or any issue that can't be resolved, we divide. I don't think this means they cut the dove in half unless it's dead, but I think this means they divide the value. If we can't determine ownership, then we're going to divide the value.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the Daily Mishnah Podcast with Benedict.